Thank you, Andrew. I'd like to first join in marking a remarkable year of purpose and progress by Indifference of Christians. 12 months of grassroots organizing across our great country with all its wonderful diversity, building chapters and activists and allies. It's hard work, it's not seen, but very important. 12 months of consensus building across parties and political divides. At this particular moment in our nation's life, that's not always easy, but IDC has always kept issues of religious freedom, particularly religious freedom abroad, above the political fray, and for that, IDC deserves great credit. 12 months of policy making across our government with a solutions-driven approach dealing with Congress, the administration, the media, and coalition partners. In large part, because of the work of IDC, we have today turned an important corner. IDC has helped reframe the debate on Capitol Hill and even in homes across our country. And a lot of work needs to be done. We see that on the ground back home in the region. I'm reminded of an old saying that I heard when I was young, and I didn't quite understand it, but I've come to appreciate it more over time, which is that we may not get everything we work for, but we will surely have to work for everything we get. Those are truly wise words. IDC has accomplished a lot. Not everything that we've set out to do, none of us have, but we've made a lot of progress. It's all been the result of hard work and cooperation, service, and sacrifice. The issue of IDC's birth was raised earlier. Why not earlier? Well, in many ways, as was discussed by the clergy, IDC was a response to a crisis, a response in some ways to ISIS. But at a deeper level, IDC is America's answer to a century of indifference. America's answer to a century of indifference, even worse, empty rhetoric by our government, by presidents of both parties, by our foreign policy establishment. My friends, for far too long, for all the talk that we've heard, far too many here in a nation founded upon the ideals of religious liberty, far too many have doubted whether our government would actually stand up for Christians and other at-risk religious minorities around the world. For many years, against every American instinct, we were told, well, the American people don't care. IDC has shown that they do, and they always have. Along the way, some may have lost hope. Others may have remained silent. But when IDC has issued the call, they have answered. And let me tell you, we are just beginning. We are just beginning. Much, much progress lies ahead. We were told, well, the politicians won't act. And again, IDC has demonstrated that they will. That's a result not just simply of hope or aspirations or dreams, but of smart organizing and offering solution-driven approaches that speak to American values and American interests. And finally, we were told, well, even if the people do care, even if the politicians give us rhetoric, what difference can we make? And IDC has shown again that you can make a difference. And look at all the issues on the IDC agenda. Look at the support for Lebanon, to promote Lebanon's security and stability in the wake of this huge influx of refugees. That's a real problem, and IDC is proposing real solutions and actually moving the ball down the field in implementing those solutions. Emergency relief for victims of genocide in Iraq and Syria. Again, IDC is out front, engaging with politicians, working with policymakers, and securing progress in a very, very difficult environment. A point on the agenda that's very, very close to my heart as an American of Armenian heritage, the Armenian genocide and American remembrance, honest American remembrance of that crime. It speaks to me very deeply, and especially on the issue of diversity and pluralism in the Middle East. My own family was welcomed in Arab lands. So many Armenians were saved from certain death by Turks or Kurds, welcomed into Muslim homes. a region that was rich in diversity and that was marked by tolerance and pluralism. That was our past, and it can be our future. The genocide issue, I think in many ways, is like a bellwether of how America deals with all of our issues. It's a test of sorts. American recognition of the Armenian genocide is not a cure-all, it's not a panacea. The honest remembrance of that crime would not solve the other issues or problems before us, but it would signal that our country is serious about honestly addressing these issues. And that really, really matters, because the signals that we send around the world are important. If we have a billboard above our US Capitol or a billboard above our White House that says human rights can be bartered, right, set your price and we'll deny your genocide, then we're signaling the world that we're really not serious. For all the talk, for all the speeches, for all the rhetoric, it's hollow, and that really matters. Will we, as a nation, enforce a foreign government's gag rule? Will we grant foreign dictators a veto over what we can and cannot say about human rights? That's a judgment about us. We sometimes cast judgment upon others. We say that this group or that group in this part of the world is doing things wrong. Well, let's also look to ourselves and say, can we abide? Can we live with ourselves? Right? Can we do the right thing? There's two pieces of legislation. One calls upon America to draw upon the lessons of the Armenian genocide to prevent future atrocities. The other says Turks and Armenians can and should get along, and of course they should. But that's going to be on the basis of a truthful, just resolution of the genocide that so bitterly divided these two peoples. Turn now to the last item on the agenda, which is I think the most fundamental, the core issue, and I think it's very, very important. And I know that Andrew will talk about it throughout the conference, and that is the question of accountability, the alignment of our interests and our values. The core question of who are our allies, right? Can we, as a nation, reject the false promise that we advance our interests by abandoning our values, right? Is that the deal we make with the world? That we think that we will move forward somehow by making one more trade-off, one more compromise, one more act of appeasement, and then guess what? Things will get better. No, guess what? We're just digging ourselves a deeper hole with every time we compromise our values, thinking that it's going to somehow advance our interests. It's not. That is the lesson of history. I don't need to remind each of you in this room of that. IDC is truly, and I think really powerfully and transformationally, and closing the gap between what we believe as Americans, what we say as Americans, and what we do as Americans. Fundamentally, IDC is about elevating the U.S. response to suffering, to threats to faith, threats to democracy, threats to diversity, elevating the U.S. response from the political level, right, where it exists today, to a moral plane. When we act at the moral plane, we act with a sense of moral imperative, of a clear understanding of right and wrong, we'll do the right thing. And that's very important. Some will say that is idealistic. I say no, that is realistic. We are great when we are good. We are great because we are good. Very important point. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And this is a city full of people who will tell you otherwise, who will shake their head and say, well, son, you just don't understand. Well, maybe we do understand. Maybe we understand a truth that's a bit deeper and more profound than expediency. We do not need to choose between being strong and just as a nation. They're not choices. We can and must be both strong and just. Let me close with just a final thought. We live, as you all know, in a very complex world. It's a tough neighborhood. But sometimes choosing the right path is as simple as the advice we were given as children. As simple as the advice we give our children. Do the right thing. Be honest. Be kind. Be just. Thank you.